Good morning. Welcome to Chapel in the Gallery this morning. This is a partnership we're going to do a couple of times this year. So we're here today. We'll be back in January for our Holocaust Remembrance Day. Also, there will be an exhibit of Holocaust survivors at that point in time. So thank you so much for meandering over and joining us in the Cyrus M. Running Gallery this morning for Chapel. We all get a special sneak peek because this exhibit doesn't actually open until tomorrow, but this is the annual faculty exhibit, and so it's our pleasure to be here this morning. This morning, we also mark here in the United States Veterans Day, and where I'm from, this is Remembrance Day, and it's a day in which we commemorate and remember all those who have died in war and conflict all around the world, and that fits in today too. So we remember all of our veterans and all of those in the midst of war, past and present today. We will be wandering around the gallery a bit this morning, and so we haven't set out chairs for all of you, but please come meander until you find a space from which you can see. We could have some people over here if you'd like, so feel free to wander in. You won't be standing still the whole time. For our prayers, we will be walking around and doing a meditative walk, seeing the pieces all around and accompanied and moved by the quartet. And so there will be movement this morning. Many thanks today to Professor Heidi Goldberg for her willingness to bring the message and to talk about her works of art in this exhibit. Also, many thanks to the Cyrus M. Running Gallery and to Maria for all of their work and their help and their eager jumping in for this partnership. And thanks as well to the Campanile String Quartet, who is both bringing meditative music and also helping us with our song this morning. With that, I invite you to stand as you are able, or as you already are, and our greeting this morning comes from one of my favorite writers and authors and theologians, Madeleine L'Engle. When we are writing or painting or composing, we are, during the time of creativity, freed from normal restrictions and are opened to a wider world where colors are brighter, sounds clearer, and people more wondrously complex than we normally realize. We sing.
As reading this morning comes from Romans, the 14th chapter. We do not live to ourselves, and we do not die to ourselves. If we live to the Lord, and if we die to the Lord. So then whether we live or whether we die, we are the Lord's. For to this end Christ died and lived again, so that he might be Lord of both the dead and the living. Word of God, word of life.
Thanks be to God.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us today in the Cyrus M. Running Gallery, where we're in the midst of new works, as you know, by my colleagues and I in the art department. Every year we look forward to sharing new work with the community, knowing that as we teach art here, we're informed by making it as well. Thank you to Maria. Where are you, Maria? Maria Carroll and her team, including Eliza Rux, Jordan Knapp, and Caitlin Mitchell, for designing and preparing this installation of the exhibition. It looks beautiful. I will not speak about the works of my colleagues right now. Instead, I'll share a few things about my own work. But I invite you all to come to the opening reception of this exhibition tomorrow from 4 till 5:30 here. And we can continue the conversation about the other many works in the space. So this is my work in the show. And I started this body of work this spring following the death of my mother. It's a suite of 20 mixed media pieces. A lot of them are recycled images, meaning that I'm a printmaker, so I make prints from mostly copper plates, etchings, and if something is off with it, I throw it in a pile. I don't throw it away, I save it for later, and then I go back and revisit it. And so these things are, some of them were works in progress already when I went to them this spring to start this suite. The title of this suite is Mist and Dust, Memories and Traces of the Dead. When I think about work relating to death, I think of Memento Mori and Vanitas. This work is not really Memento Mori, which is Latin and means remember you must die. Memento Mori, often depicting skulls or skeletons, are designed to be symbolic pieces that get us thinking about our own mortality. Memento Mori served to remind us of the shortness and the fragility of our lives. This work is not really like the overlapping genre of Vanitas, which is Latin for emptiness. It was particularly popular among 16th and 17th century Northern European artists. Vanitas painting, similar to Memento Mori, focused on the transience of life, images of death and decay, the certainty of death, and the ultimate futility of earthly pleasure. What these works are, in part, is a way for me to reach peace with the deaths of people in my life. They embrace the ideas of mystery, loss and remembrance, and the divide between heaven and earth. Some of these pieces might be seen as morbid or creepy. My daughter tells me this. But I don't feel that way about them. Some are references to things concrete, like an object belonging to someone, or the unexplainable, like a perfectly delivered symbolic message or vision that I or my family members have experienced after the deaths of loved ones. Others depict notions referencing death, spirits, thin places, or the afterlife. It wasn't just the death of my mother that moved me in this direction. I have witnessed a streak of deaths in the fairly recent past, starting with the car accident my husband Joe was involved in 4 years ago, where the driver of the other car lost his life. 2 months later, Joe's mom passed away of a stroke. Not long after that, I lost a friend from cancer. Last fall, my father-in-law died after following a long battle with emphysema. And then my mom died of cardiac arrest almost a year ago. And just last Sunday, we lost our friend, teacher, and colleague Dwight Williams, who has been teaching 3D and sculpture here fairly recently. And I just want to add that you can find little ceramic bison like this that he made. Friends of his have gotten together with his family to sell these to help with medical expenses. And he signed them all too, which is lovely. And there's a bowl on the table around the curved wall here if you're interested in having one. They're $5 a piece. And his family will certainly appreciate that. It's a nice way to remember him. And if you have questions, you could talk to Lori about that. All of this is a lot for me to digest mentally and emotionally, with insufficient time to process it to my satisfaction. And I realize and accept that I'll never be able to understand all of it fully. I've spent enough time numbing out and carrying on, and this work reflects some processes of restoration that follow. These processes involve the literal and mental sorting out of details, objects, memories, and events. Faith has been a sustaining presence for me and my family through all this. It helps me to press forward into states of transition or transformation, to face my new normals, as most of us do when people leave us. My new normal, like my old normal, is seated in ritual, or the comforting, repeated patterns in the actions of my days. I love small rituals, like lighting an evening candle after the time change each November when I arrive home after dark. Prayers work this way too, bringing comfort when I send them out, feeling like my concerns are taken in, even though the outcome may not unfold in the way I imagine or wish. I love rituals around significant events as well. And I'm going to point out one piece. I'm going to say a few more words about it. This one here. This piece is called Okla. And Okla is a hand-woven wool bed coverlet made to bring contentedness and to keep its owner warm. For a long time in Norway, it was a tradition for each family member to have one. The coverlet would accompany its owner through the passages of life, from birth and christening to the funeral. Some of these okler had a rectangular red shape in the center, which was meant to represent the portal through which one's spirit would pass after leaving the body on the way to heaven. This one is called Mom's Rosary, Honeybees. My mom was a very devoted traditional Catholic. If anyone was ever intertwined in ritual, it was she. Each day began with rosaries, followed by more during daily masses she attended. And at the end of the day, things would be finished up with yet more rosaries. Each of these was dedicated to some specific need, and people came to her regularly with requests. Not only was she dedicated to reciting endless rosaries, she made them for others. She had all the tools to make and teach rosary making to others, and she shipped them in all directions to donate to individuals and groups who wanted them. It was a significant part of her life. She was like a honeybee, tirelessly working on the honey, the goal of sharing prayerful faith selflessly with others. At her wake, we set out tables full of rosaries from her collection for people to take with them to remember her. And it was heartwarming to see her friends and acquaintances tickled by this and to hear their stories about her. This rosary depicted is one that I kept. It was one she used frequently, and she believed the prayers on it yielded miracles. So it is in the recognition and the acceptance of the miracles and mysteries that faith presents that keep hope fresh and help one to persevere. As writer Madeleine L'Engle put it, if it can be verified, we don't need faith. Faith is for that which lies on the other side of reason. Faith is what makes life bearable, with all its tragedies and ambiguities and sudden, startling joys.
For our prayers this morning, we invite you to wander and to walk in meditation around the gallery. You will be accompanied by the Campanile Quartet, which will be playing the second movement from Schubert's Death and the Maiden Quartet. We will call you back together for our blessing and our sending song, but for now, we send you out to wander. receive a blessing. Formed in love, renewed by grace, empowered for service, we are blessed this day and always. Amen. Amen. Thank you for joining us here in the gallery this morning. Go in peace. Serve the Lord.
Thanks be to God.